In this section, we will talk about expressions. Here's a definition. An expression is a constant, a variable, or a combination of constants, variables, operation symbols such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and grouping symbols such as parentheses or brackets. And here are some examples of expressions. We have t plus 6, that's an expression. It's a combination of a variable, an operation symbol, which is the addition sign, and a constant. Pi, an expression could just be one term. L plus W plus minus 9, it could be multiple terms. Again, y, an expression could be just one term. 4 could be just a number. 5 divided by the quantity x plus 2. These are all examples of expressions. When we evaluate an expression, we substitute a number for each variable in the expression and then calculate the results. When we evaluate an expression, it is always good practice to use parentheses each time a number is substituted for a variable. So this is important. Every time you substitute a variable with a number, we always should be using parentheses. For example, let's evaluate x minus 4 when x equals to 7. Well, if we're going to substitute x equals 7 into this expression, remember it's always good practice to use parentheses when replacing a variable with a number. So 7 minus 4, we replaced x with 7, since that's what we specified x to be. 7 minus 4 equals to 3. So the expression x minus 4 has a value of 3 when x equals to 7. Now notice x is a variable, so as the value of x changes, the value of x minus 4 will also change. Next, let's evaluate 3x when x equals to 5. So once again, 3 is a constant, which means it's not going to change. It's always going to be 3, but x can change. In this case, x is 5. When there's no operation in between, the operation is assumed to be multiplication. So let's replace the x with the parentheses, and in the parentheses, we will put the value of x, which is 5, and 3 times 5 is 15. Here's a definition. If a and b are numbers, then the product of a and b is ab. Notice we don't need an operation if we're multiplying. The quotient of a and b is a divided by b, where b is not 0. The reason b cannot be 0 is because if we divide by 0, so let's say we have any number divided by 0, then the result is undefined. There are several terms or phrases we can use to represent the different operations. So for the operation of addition, we can use plus, the word sum, the word total, the word add, the word more than, and the word or the phrase in this case, increase by. Okay, so anytime you see any of these words or phrases, those all refer to addition. So for example, 3 more than a number will be x plus 3. Subtraction, we use the word minus, the word difference. Now, when it says subtract 3 from a number, that means we have a number and we're subtracting 3 from that number. So it's going to be x minus 3, not 3 minus x, because we're subtracting 3 from a number. Same thing with less than. When we see less than, we have 3 less than a number. So 3 is less than something, which means that number x is going to go first and 3 is going to be subtracted from it because it's 3 is less than that number. Decrease by, all these represent subtraction. For multiplication, we can simply use the word multiply. We can use the word times, the word product. If you say something like twice a number, that means 2 times a number. So that'll be twice x is 2x. 1/3 of a number, the word of, always means multiplication. So 1/3 of a number will be 1/3 times x, or simply 1/3 x. For division, we can use divide, we can use quotient, and we can also use ratio. So any of these refer to division. So here are some examples. Let's translate the English phrase, the product of 2 and the number, into an expression. Well, what does product mean? product means multiplication. So if you have the product of 2 and a number, that means our expression will be 2 times x, or 2x. In step 2, evaluate your result in problem 1 for x equals 3. Well, if our expression is 2x and x equals to 3, that means we will have 2 times 3, which is 6. So the expression 2x, which is a product of 2 and x, has a value of 6 when x equals to 3. This time, let's evaluate the result in problem 1 for x equals 7. So our expression is 2x, but if x equals to 7, we will replace the x with 7 using parentheses. So 2 times 7, this will give us 14. Okay, remember to note down any questions you have so I can clarify them in class. Okay, now here are some more examples. Let x be a number, translate the English phrase sentence into an expression, then evaluate the expression for x equals 6. The quotient. So the quotient, remember, means division. Now what are we dividing? The quotient of a number and 3. So we're dividing x and 3. Now we want to evaluate this expression for x equals to 6. So if we take 6 divided by 3, the answer will be 2. Now I made a mistake here. I did not use parentheses when I replaced x with 6. So for good practice, let's always use parentheses. Subtract the number from 8. Okay, now let's think about what this is saying. We're taking a number and we're subtracting it from 8. Well, if we're subtracting the number from 8, then 8 will come first, and we're subtracting from 8. So the expression will be 8 minus x. And once again, if we substitute the value of x equals 6, we will have 8 minus parentheses 6, which will equal to 2. Now, in these, translate the expression into an English phrase. There are since there are many different words to represent subtraction, there are many different choices. I'll give you one. One way to write this is the difference, because difference means subtraction, of 6 and x. Another way to write this is x subtracted from 6. And there are other options too. This one, the easiest way to write this would be the product of 8 and x. The product of 8 and x. Okay, here's an example. If it takes a student t minutes to complete a test that has n questions, then t divided by n is the average time in minutes taken to respond to one question. Evaluate t divided by n, so we want to evaluate the expression t divided by n when t equals to 48 and n equals to 16. Well, if we're going to replace t with 48, then we're going to use parentheses 48. If we're going to replace n with 16, we're going to use parentheses 16. And 48 divided by 16 will equal to 3. Now, what does the result mean in this situation? Well, if we have 48, t is the number of minutes. So if you have 48 minutes and 16 questions, it's taking 48 minutes to complete 16 questions. So if you take 48 divided by 16, that's equal to 3. So on average, it takes 3 minutes to complete a question. So it's important to keep the units in mind. Write the phrase as a mathematical expression and evaluate the result. The sum of x and y. The word sum means addition. So we have x plus y. And now we're going to evaluate the result for x equals to 8 and y equals to 4. So this equals to 8 plus 4, make sure we use parentheses, which equals 12. So the expression x plus y, which represents the sum of x and y, has a value of 12 when x equals 8 and y equals 4. Now this time we got the quotient of x and y. Quotient is represented by division. So x divided by y, x is 8. Let's use parentheses, y is 4, and 8 divided by 4 is 2, which is our result. Okay, please come to class prepared with any questions you have about this.